Hi, and welcome to our Seed World Insider podcast with Jason Cabe of KSI. We've been focused this year on the theme of transparency, and today we're going to discuss the future of automation and the work that KSI is doing there, really upsetting the status quo and taking a fresh approach. I think you'll find our conversation very insightful. I know I did. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, Jason, thanks so much for sitting down with me here today to talk about the future of automation.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. It's good to be back.
When we think about automation is all around us in different ways, from our own personal devices and appliances all the way to changing the landscape of the seed industry. And that's really where you're at today, is in the seed plants and helping to facilitate that.
Yeah, like you said, automation is something that it's not going away. It's clearly only becoming more and more a part of our everyday life. And you can, when you drive down the street and you interact with stoplights and you interact with many different things in this world, almost everything has some sort of control system behind it that's doing things from very simple things to very complicated things that we as users and consumers or operators of control systems kind of just take for granted that it's just working today. And so, but our job as a provider of control and automation equipment is to take the time and to make sure that where we're heading as a company and as a provider of this equipment is aligned with what our users need, what our partners are needing, and we're not just kind of heading down a path that's good for KSI, but we want this to be, the solutions that we bring, the engineering that we put into our automation and our control systems, we want them to fit a need that aligns itself with both our customers and with our partners upstream, and our customers. We want we want our equipment to kind of fit in that niche. And in order to do that, it takes communication, and it takes openness and transparency between us and our customers and our partners to make sure we're doing that.
So what are those customer needs that you're kind of honed in on and focused in making sure that, it's not just a one-way trajectory, but you're taking kind of both along at the same time?
A big one is transparency. That's something that we've talked a lot about. That's kind of a driving force with what we're doing is kind of helping our customers and the industry open their eyes to the actual seed treatment process and the accuracy, and kind of trying to pull back the curtain to what's actually happening. And we think that this is a super important mission that we kind of play a role in. Beyond that, there's also just the importance of making sure that our equipment and the automation we provide is up to date, that we're taking advantage of the technology that is available to us, and that we have a process and a system in place that allows us to keep all of our systems to a point where that equipment's usable. So if we provide equipment today and then 10 years from now, the needs have changed to a point that equipment that we're offering today is no longer useful, that's really not a good thing. So we want to make sure that we have a way and a path to have all of our equipment, our automation, continue to move with the advances in technology. When we think about automation, we think about hardware and software, and those two things kind of come together to provide a solution in a static moment in time. Not that difficult to make sure that you're using the best technology and the best equipment possible. What's challenging is to have those two come together in a way that sets you up to take advantage of future technology advancements. And that's something that we kind of work hard on. And I think that's a big reason why we have a role in this industry, and the customers and the partners that we work with rely on us to make sure that we're taking advantage of that technology and that we're setting our equipment up to be able to take advantage of future technology.
That is probably music to the ears of a lot of people, and that you're taking this into account and balancing that relationship between software advances and then also making sure that the hardware stays up to speed. But, certainly when I step back and think about that, that's got to be really complex to tackle. So how are you going about that?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's software, a lot that goes into just ensuring that your systems from the software side are up to date, and that you have means and you have a process in place that allow you to update your equipment and your automation and your software in the field. Checks and balances, you got to make sure that you're not breaking a system, push out an update. All of these things you need to be able to manage and work through. So that's one side of it. But on the hardware side, you look at hardware differently than you do software. There generally is a very direct cost associated with that hardware that you're buying. And historically, when it comes to automation and controls, when you buy an automation solution, you're buying both the hardware and the software, and you own that. But what happens is you buy that today, and tomorrow what you bought is now out of date. And so what we have committed to doing is, as we think about keeping our systems up to date, when we think about our users wanting to be able to turn their system on and have everything at their fingertips that is needed to do their job today, we have committed to also taking not just the software and making sure that we have a system in place to push out software updates, but we want to be able to provide to our systems and users hardware as needed. So if 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 10 years from now, there are hardware advances that need to be taken into consideration and need to be used in order to do the job that this industry needs, KSI is committed to being able to provide that to our equipment and to our automation customers. And, on the surface level, it seems like that could be there's a lot of unknown that come with that. But I will say, technology moves pretty fast, but it's also something that we at KSI are continually trying to monitor and stay on top of. As long as we don't find ourselves in a position where we are caught off guard and, where we didn't understand where the industry was heading, that this is something that we can manage together with our customers, and we can work through these things. And honestly, it's something that our customers have really found themselves in conversations through this. There's a peace of mind that comes with knowing that buy something today and something changes tomorrow, I'm going to have access to that. And KSI will be there for me. And this is something that we have struggled to talk through in the past as an automation provider, because we don't think of something and develop it tomorrow in the same year. So our sales team historically is always selling something, and yet our engineering and our development team is always designing something ahead of that. And so we know there are times when we're actually selling something that is already out of date, but there's not a lot you can do about that unless you have a plan in place to be able to update those systems to that newest version. So what this has allowed us to do, it allowed us to talk about future development to our customers that are investing in us. And that it's given us a lot of liberty. It's given us a lot of freedom and a lot of conversation with us and our customers in a way that keeps us from penalizing our customers that invest with us today. So it's actually a really great thing. It allows us to get really good feedback from customers because they have more insight, more visibility into what we're doing in the future without feeling like, I'm buying this today, but I know that tomorrow you're going to come back to me and tell me, you spent this much money on this. It's now out of date. You need to spend that much money again just to get the latest equipment. That's what we're trying to control and manage through this update process that we're bringing to the industry to keep that from happening.
Talk about transparency. I think that's the definition of it, is that kind of put yourself in a vulnerable position and saying, you're buying something that we already have plans for it being out of date, but you have to make this step before you can take the next step and to take advantage of those future kind of breakthroughs and innovations when it comes to automation.
Yes, not just transparency. So transparency is super important, and it's part of it. We need to allow people to see what we're doing, and we need to allow our customers to see what we're doing. But there needs to be mutual trust, and we have to build that trust over time, and we understand that. This model doesn't work if you buy something from us and, we work together to work through, we're going to tell you you're going to have, the updates, and anything we develop over the next 10 years, you're going to have. That's fine. But if KSI quits innovating and quits developing, it's really no longer worth anything to you. And so from our standpoint, it does put some pressure on us to make sure that we are innovative and that we are developing equipment, because you didn't just buy this equipment one time. Your expectations have rose to a level where you expect something new, something revolutionary over the course of time and over the course of years of having that product. And that's something that we're kind of wading into and willing to take that on, because we're confident in our in KSI, who we are, what our engineering and development teams consist of, the communication, the pulse we have on the industry. We feel good about that, and we're committed to keeping it that way.
Can you provide an example of the type of hardware update that someone might expect, or something that you guys have already been through?
Probably the best one that I can give is just a simple example, like a barcode scanner. So as we kind of have moved through automation, the technology behind barcode scanning seems kind of simple and maybe silly to a certain point, but as you think through what barcode scanners can do, there's lots of types of barcode scanners, 1D barcode scanners, 2D barcode scanners. 5 years ago, when we started using barcode scanners, the need was to do a certain function. And as we've developed and innovated, we've stumbled across multiple uses for a barcode scanner. And what has happened is it's basically caused us to need to provide a different type of barcode scanner than what we did initially 5 years ago. Part of what we do is, as someone is on our is a customer of KSI and part of our upgrade plan, we provide that new barcode scanner. It has a cost associated to it, but that's not a cost the customer sees like they're buying a barcode scanner. It's part of the upgrade. So you don't just get pushed out a new software update that now, does 2D barcode scanning. You also get a new barcode scanner plugged into your system that you can now begin to use.
How do you manage that relationship?
So what we have found, just in kind of our research and kind of where we've landed, is that when someone buys automation, at least in specific to the seed treatment industry, specific to KSI's kind of our history of releasing minor and major upgrades, is that what happens is someone ends up actually paying for the same amount or very close to the same amount, whether you upgrade every year or whether you upgrade once every 10 years or whether you upgrade once every 20 years. You're still going to pay the same amount. What happens though is that if you buy a system today, 10 years later you upgrade, that costs X amount. That's fine. You get an upgrade in that 10th year, but that whole second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth year, you didn't take advantage of the latest technology. And so every system comes to an end of life where it can't be supported because the technology is too old. It needs to be replaced because something broke down. And so what our goal is just to take that, and rather than get to a point where you have end of life, take the dollars that you're looking at and spending over the course of that life of that project, and keep your system up to date every year so that you're taking advantage of new technology every year, rather than have this 3, 5, 10-year window in there where you're using honestly older technology or software or something that is not the best software you can be using or hardware that you can be using.
Mm-hmm. When we think about that, there's a lot of data that's associated with the customer and what they're doing, as well as on your end. So tell me a little bit about kind of the data exchange and what's happening there.
We've kind of been talking mostly today about the hardware and software, and historically those are kind of the two. Really, with any automation, any controls that is built and provided, it's about those two pieces coming together. But as data has become more readily exchangeable and there's interfaces that go between systems all the time, kind of the attention to data is a third part of an automation system that demands our attention. And so it's not just about hardware, it's not just about software, it's about the data that goes into it. And being able to say, okay, I'm doing all of this stuff. How can it actually, and I'm collecting, I've got access to data that is maybe helpful for me. It's maybe helpful for my customers. It may be helpful for my upstream partners, so whoever I'm buying seed or treatment from. Is there a way to bring that all together to make us all better? That's really where the data exchange has really taken off for us. And every month that goes by, almost weekly, the interest in data, their eyes are being opened to what is possible and efficiencies that can be gained, costs that can be saved within running someone's business. And if you just sit back and take a look at how the seed treatment process works from beginning to end, there's a lot of opportunity for the industry to continue to advance and share data and use the data not just for our customers using it to make themselves more efficient, not just between our customers and the upstream on the buying or selling side of seed and treatment, but also between us and the farm and getting planted. There's just a lot of area of opportunity here. And that's something that this industry is beginning continually to grow in their understanding of what's possible.
So you would say that we're just kind of on the tip of an iceberg when it really comes to that.
Yeah. When it comes to data exchange, there's a lot of focus in the seed treatment world around making ourselves more efficient and tying our seed treater into our ag accounting software so that, to eliminate double entry. But there's a whole nother world of that I think is continuing to get in traction as well, both upstream and downstream of the seed treater.
Are you helping to coach companies in that area in terms of where they can be looking, or how are you helping people to understand just how valuable kind of the marriage of the hardware and software and then the data component can be?
When we get in conversations around data specifically, it's kind of like, I know it's there, I know it's valuable, and I know it could do something, but I don't really know what, and I don't really know how. And so it kind of just, nothing ever happens. And so we found where we pretty well have to be kind of proactive with that in our own mind. And so even with our customers, they know that the data's there and that they shouldn't need to handwrite every ticket. But unless we actually talk them through that and show them how to do that, it's kind of like, this is the way I've done it. I know this isn't the best, but I'm just going to continue to do it. And so that's something where, we, and even running reports, seeing what is valuable to me, we pretty well have to have that conversation on a very, very granular and one-on-one basis with most of our customers, or else it just doesn't happen. And so it's one of those things where the tools are great. You can provide all the tools, but if you don't train on how to use it, it's just never gets used. Like most things we have, the functionality is way beyond what a normal user really experiences. But we want our customers to become advanced users with this stuff. We want them to actually make their business better with it. And that does take time. It does take effort, but usually we try to have those conversations when we can.
Great. If there's one thing that you could convey, when it comes to the hardware and software aspect of it in the future of automation, what is your vision?
For us, specific to the seed treatment world, our mission, our goal, where we're headed is really a way for us to continue to serve this industry. And so when we kind of got into providing automation, when we got into working with our customers and working with our partners to provide a solution, it was all about service. It was all about support, making sure that we're there and that we are a sustainable company that continues to be there in the future. And in order for us to continue to provide the service and continue to provide the support that we want to provide at the level that the industry has known KSI to provide, our commitment is to do that through, not just through picking up the phone and answering the phone, not just showing up on site with our service trucks, but to actually do that through our software, through the equipment as well, year in and year out, that what you used to think about as just a seed treater and an automation panel with electrical components hanging in it, and a touchscreen with graphics and buttons on it, that's no longer just viewed as something that's just static. But that's something that you view as a service that you as the consumer are getting to take advantage of, and that that it's not something you purchase is stuck in time, but that it's updated every moment that technology is available to you. And that therefore we can continue to provide the service that we have been committed to providing to this industry.
As a consumer, that's one of the most frustrating pieces is when you go buy a new smartphone and, a month later they're coming out with a new one and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that that is such a relief as well as a boost of confidence in making a purchase when it comes to, your seed treatment equipment, and knowing that you're going to be staying on top of the different advances and innovations over the course of, 10 plus years.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sitting down with me. I always enjoy talking with you, and we'll catch up next time.
All right. Thank you.
That's it for today's Insider Podcast. Thanks for listening, and on behalf of the Seed World team, we hope you have an awesome day.